The thing that walks between the tents. The sky over Cedar Ridge Forest looked bruised purple as Jake, Mel, and Rowan finished setting up their campsite. It was supposed to be a simple weekend trip, cheap, quiet, and far from work and life. But from the moment they arrived, the forest felt wrong, too still, as if the trees were listening. Jake joked about it being classic horror movie vibes, but Mel kept glancing into the tree line. "It's so quiet," she said. "No birds, no bugs, nothing." Rowan shrugged. "Maybe we're early. The forest will wake up." But it didn't. Not that night. Not ever. The first night, they sat around the fire until past midnight, talking, laughing, and roasting marshmallows. Eventually, Mel went to her tent. Jake followed, and Rowan, always the last to sleep, stayed outside a bit longer. He didn't hear leaves. He didn't hear footsteps. He only heard breathing. Slow, heavy, wet. Right behind his tent, Rowan spun around with his flashlight, but nothing was there. Just empty darkness and the faint glow of dying firelight. He told himself it was a deer. They were common around this time of year. But deer don't breathe like that, and they definitely don't whisper. Because as he zipped up his tent, he heard it soft and broken, like someone trying to relearn speech. "Roo, wah?" He froze. The voice came from outside, but it sounded like someone pressing their lips right against the tent fabric. When he looked, the silhouette of a head slowly appeared. Thin, too tall, angled wrong. "Jake?" he whispered. "Mel?" No answer, just that breathing. Rowan didn't sleep. The second day, morning came as a relief. Sunlight made them all brave again. Rowan told them what he heard, although he left out the part about the whisper using his name. Jake laughed. "Bro, I was out cold. If I sleep any harder, I'll stop breathing." But Mel didn't laugh. She hadn't slept either. "Someone was walking around," she said. "I heard them. They circled my tent all night." Jake raised a brow. "Then why didn't you call us?" Mel hesitated. "Because I thought it was one of you messing with me." They spent the afternoon hiking, trying to shake off the unease. But the deeper they walked, the stranger the forest became. Trees bent toward the trail, leaning in as if eavesdropping. They found claw marks on trunks, deep ones, too high for any known animal. And several times, Rowan felt like something was following them, keeping pace just beyond the leaves. That night, they agreed to keep all the tents close together, touching, practically. It didn't help. The second night, they heard footsteps the moment the fire went out. First soft, then deliberate, then circling slow, dragging steps that crunched the dry leaves. Jake whispered, "Who's out there?" No one answered. Rowan zipped open a corner of his tent and peeked outside with his flashlight. The beam hit the trees. Nothing. Then he lowered it and immediately froze. A long, pale arm was reaching between the tents. It wasn't human. Too thin, too long, jointed in the wrong places. The fingers were dragging across the ground, feeling, searching. "Don't move," Rowan whispered. The hand slowly rose, tapping lightly on Jake's tent. Then Mel's. Tap, tap, tap. Like it was choosing. Then the arm withdrew, slow and smooth, vanishing into the dark. They didn't sleep. They didn't speak. They only waited for morning. The third day, "You saw something," Mel said quietly to Rowan. Rowan nodded. Jake looked around the site at the trees, the claw marks, the disturbed leaves. "We're leaving," he said. "Pack everything, now." But the forest felt different, as if it didn't want them to go. Every few minutes, they heard branches shifting, leaves crunching, something pacing them from the trees. When they reached the car, Jake cursed. The hood was scratched, deep. Something had dragged claws across the metal. Whatever it is, Rowan whispered, it's been here longer than us. Mel tried her key. The engine wouldn't start. They were stuck. The third night. They stayed in one tent, 3 adults, cramped, shaking, listening to footsteps approach again. But this time, the footsteps didn't circle. They stopped, right outside. The breathing started again, slow, wet, inches away. Then a voice, clearer than before. "Let me in," Jake whispered. "Oh my God." The zipper began to move. On its own. Rowan grabbed it with both hands, fighting it. Something was pulling from the outside, something strong. Mel covered her mouth to keep from screaming. Then it stopped. Silence. Rowan held the zipper, not daring to move. Minutes passed, then hours. When morning light finally hit the tent, Rowan unzipped it slowly. The forest was empty, but the campsite wasn't. The claw marks around the tent were fresh, deep, close only inches from where they slept. And Jake's tent, left unused the previous night, was gone. Not collapsed, not torn apart, gone. Only a drag trail remained, leading into the woods. The ending. They ran. They didn't care where. Every branch snap made them scream. Every shadow looked like a hand stretching toward them. They were found by rangers hours later, exhausted and terrified. The rangers said something strange. "You're lucky. Most people who camp in that sector, we never see again." "Why?" Rowan asked. The ranger hesitated. "Because something out there mimics voices, lures people away, walks between tents at night. Locals call it the Tall One." "Did you ever see it?" Mel asked shakily. The ranger shook his head. "No, but we hear it sometimes." He looked into the forest, breathing. The group fell silent. Then the ranger added softly, "And on the nights we hear it, we make sure no one sleeps alone." Rowan tried to laugh, but the sound died in his throat. Because behind the ranger, between 2 trees, something long and pale slowly withdrew its arm.